Welcome to Hannity. Now, the presumption of innocence, it is the very foundation of America's justice system and at the very core of our constitutional republic. Sadly, tonight, there are some people in this country ready to throw what is the single most important principle to the wind, all in an effort to delay, disrupt the confirmation of Judge Kavanaugh. On this program, on my radio show, I have long emphasized the seriousness of any sexual misconduct allegations. Kavanaugh, his accuser, must have an opportunity to testify under oath. Sadly, that's just not good enough for some people. Some want Kavanaugh and the nomination tossed out, delayed indefinitely over decades-old charges, 36-year-old charges. Now, that the FBI is now declining to investigate. They have already investigated Judge Kavanaugh 6 times, and this dates back to Judge Kavanaugh's time in high school, 1982. We have corroboration by 0 witnesses, vehemently denied by the accuser, and key missing details like a specific year even, location, even a clear series of events. Now, coming up in a minute, 2 people that know Judge Kavanaugh really well will join us tonight. Plus, we will expose what is a shameful political posturing by many in this country. Their blatant double standard. As we speak, many Democrats have horrific histories of sexual misconduct, and they're revered by their colleagues, and some even still roaming the halls of Congress. We will name names tonight. We'll also cover this week's big news on FISA abuse, the president ordering previously redacted FISA documents to be released. And now, very interesting, you're seeing some of these deep state swamp creatures. They are sweating and freaking out. We'll name names there, too. Sit tight, buckle up. It's time for our breaking news opening monologue. You know, there are a few core principles that we really should all agree on that separates this country from a banana republic or a despotic regime. Let's see, free and fair elections, separation of powers, our great Constitution, the best ever given man, and an impartial system of justice that deems that every person is innocent until they are proven guilty. Sadly, tonight, we have many people in this country on the left. They're putting politics above what is a core foundational principle. Now, by now, you probably know the story. Judge Brett Kavanaugh is facing 1 decades-old sexual misconduct allegation. 36 years ago, Northern California psychology professor, Professor Christine Ford. Now, though the alleged incident occurred when they were both in high school in 1982, Ford made these accusations only recently, given few concrete details and naming 1 witness. Now, both the alleged witness and Kavanaugh categorically have now denied the charge. Law enforcement, they're not investigating the decades-old charge. And meanwhile, Judge Kavanaugh, his accuser, Professor Ford, have all been invited to appear rightly before Congress on Monday. This is a very important, serious allegation. Both sides should be given a serious opportunity to speak and be heard. Kavanaugh quickly agreed to testify under oath. Professor Ford, well, even though our lawyer said she would appear in the beginning, well, now that she's been given an invitation, numerous invitations, she has not accepted the invitation. And we just have a letter sent by her lawyer to Senator Grassley of the Senate Judiciary Committee. She's now calling on the FBI to first investigate her charges as a, quote, first step. Now, of course, to get a full picture, we should also hear from others. This is 36 years ago. People that have known Kavanaugh throughout these many years, former high school students, former high school girlfriends, college girlfriends, they've all been outspoken about what they say is impeccable character, that he has always been a gentleman. 65 women, impressively, have signed a letter supporting the judge. His former female colleagues in the Bush White House, they too have spoken out in his behalf. And mothers of the girl he coaches in basketball, fellow college and law school students, clerks of his, and others that have worked and known him over the last 36 years, all speak well of his character. Now, tonight I can report that none of this seems to interest the Democratic Party. Clearly, they are not interested in hearing the full truth. Clearly, they just want to delay. Sadly, they want to disrupt and just block the Kavanaugh nomination. And even if that means giving up the presumption of innocence, they want to impugn his character, no due process, no trial, nothing. You don't believe me? We've got the tape. Take a look.
This woman is to be believed, and you can believe Dr. Ford. This was attempted rape, and this is a woman who exhibits, Dr. Ford, courage, but the classic signs of post-traumatic stress.
I believe her. Listen, first of all, anybody who comes forward at this point to be prepared to testify in the United States Senate against someone who's being nominated to one of the most powerful positions in the United States government, that takes an extraordinary amount of courage.
Not only do women like Dr. Ford, who bravely comes forward, need to be heard, but they need to be believed. They need to be believed.
Let me just say right at the outset, I believe Dr. Ford. I believe the survivor here. There's every reason to believe her. She has come forward courageously and bravely.
It's another rush to judgment. No presumption of innocence. Mainstream media always carrying the water for the Democratic Party. Well, they are towing the party line, as per usual. Let's take a look.
You have no knowledge whether Brett Kavanaugh
It doesn't
did what
matter.
that
I
person
believe
did.
Christine Ford because when you to come forward, she has no there's no enticements for her to come forward.
By the end of the week, if Judge Kavanaugh decides he doesn't want to go through this, it isn't worth it. He doesn't want to, maybe he can win, but he doesn't want an asterisk. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he chose to withdraw and chose to back down.
The reality is, I see it right now, probably this nomination is cooked. And he doesn't, is he willing to accept that when the time comes and withdraw it? Or not?
We need to judge Brett Kavanaugh not just on what he may or may not have done, but how he treats a woman's pain. And that is something I'm going to be paying attention to on Monday. How does he respond to what is happening, whether or not he agrees that this happened with her? Does he take her pain seriously?
When you look at all of this, what do you see? Selective moral outrage. It's important to remember some key details. First, Senator Feinstein and her fellow Democrats, they had this allegation for several months. Professor Ford issued a letter to lawmakers back in July. Now, Feinstein, when she met with Kavanaugh privately for long periods of time, she never asked during any of these private, lengthy meetings anything about this. And by the way, she didn't ask Kavanaugh about the charge during the public hearings that we all watched, the circuits that we watched. She didn't inform any of her Republican colleagues about the charge until the 11th hour, when a confirmation vote was set. And now she even admitted today she can't say everything being alleged is truthful. A quick moment of truth, but she was excoriated immediately thereafter. Watch this.
I think it's really too bad that no one called her or called her lawyer. My understanding is she got emails. And this is a woman, and I really believe, who's been profoundly impacted by this. Now, I can't say everything's truthful. I don't know. Right. But I do know that they had to contact her lawyers.
Well, they did. We checked in with Senator Grassley's office. She has now been invited numerous times to appear before the committee before sending this letter tonight. Now, Feinstein, after being excoriated by the base of her party, she tried to walk back those comments, saying, oh, she believes Professor Ford is credible. But this is the opposite of what we believe in this country, the presumption of innocence, due diligence. And frankly, what you're seeing and what you're observing and what you're watching is dirty political tricks at its worst. We should listen to all sides. And then I trust the American people will come to the truth. I trust senators will make the right decision. Earlier today, the president, he weighed in on these political tactics. Here's what he said.
He's an incredible individual, great intellect, great judge. Impeccable history in every way, I feel so badly for him that he's going through this, to be honest with you. I feel so badly for him. This is not a man that deserves this. This should have been brought to the fore. It should have been brought up long ago. And that's what you have hearings for. You don't wait till the hearing is over and then all of a sudden bring it up. I feel that the Republicans, and I can speak for myself, we should go through a process because there shouldn't even be a little doubt. There shouldn't be a doubt. Again, they knew what they were doing. They should have done this a long time ago, 3 months ago, not now. But they did it now. So I don't want to play into their hands.
The president's right on every point he makes, and brings us to the second key detail you need to remember. Any of the outrage that you're seeing from Democrats over sexual misconduct Nobody else in the media will report this. This is what I mean by selective moral outrage. There was no outrage over Senator Ted Chappaquiddick Kennedy. He was the lion of the Senate. Remember, he impugned the character of Judge Robert Bork. We aired it last night. He successfully blocked Bork's Supreme Court nomination by slandering and smearing him. But this is a guy right there, Ted Kennedy, in 1969. He drove his car off a bridge into shallow water. He left the scene of the crime, and his young female passenger, not his wife, died in a submerged car. He went home to sleep that night. He never called the authorities until the following day. He told nobody. That woman, she has a name, Mary Jo Kopechne, could have been saved. Senator Kennedy was revered by Democrats as a hero. There was no Democratic outrage over. Look at even Bill Clinton, for example. He was beloved by many of the people still in the Senate today, despite, of course, his long track record of known sexual misconduct. Monica Lewinsky, Paula Jones, Kathleen Willey, Juanita Broderick, who accused him of rape. I interviewed her. I interviewed all those women. And that's when he was the Attorney General of Arkansas. Still, Senator Feinstein, Schumer, Dick Durbin, so many other Democrats enthusiastically supported Clinton, even voted against his impeachment. And then there's current U.S. Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown. His ex-wife accused him of domestic abuse a few years after what they're claiming Judge Kavanaugh did, and even filed a restraining order against him. There's a new Political ad just out today. Look for yourself.
Now, Senator Sherrod Brown is facing his own Me Too movement from his past. These court records show sworn evidence that Brown's ex-wife accused him of abusing her. She said Brown assaulted her. A judge had to issue a restraining order. Later, she said Brown violated the court order, pushing, shoving, and bullying her. Brown claims it's a family matter, but his ex-wife, like other victims, has a right to be believed. This senator had to resign when evidence emerged he mistreated women. Why is Senator Brown different?
Now, while Senator Brown and his ex-wife now get along and she supports him politically, well, the record speaks for itself. That's the record. And still, Feinstein is apparently unconcerned over those charges. We reached out to her office today for comments. Crickets. And there's also DNC Deputy Chairman. This is now currently happening. Keith Ellison. He's running to be Minnesota's next Attorney General. Ellison's ex-girlfriend recently accused him of serious physical and emotional abuse. Ellison went on to win his party's nomination for Minnesota Attorney General. Yesterday, she tweeted the DNC refused to believe her accusations and that they smeared, threatened, and isolated her. We reached out to the DNC. We reached out to Ellison. We still have yet to get a comment. This is the very same party that is now trying to block Kavanaugh's confirmation over decades-old misconduct charges from 1982. People on the record, I believe her. Do you believe Keith Ellison's girlfriend? Did you believe Kathleen Willey and Juanita Broderick? This is the same party of Harvey Weinstein and Anthony Weiner and Elliot Spitzer, and I can go on. As I've said before, the charges are serious, and we need to hear from Kavanaugh's accuser, Professor Ford. But when Democrats tell you they want to get to the truth, that they truly care about misconduct allegations, frankly, I think we've just proven they're simply lying. Selective moral outrage, rushing to judgment, no presumption of innocence. The American people are smart. They see what's going on. Every American deserves this fundamental principle of presumption of innocence. You all deserve it. And Judge Kavanaugh deserves it. And the woman making the allegation deserves to be heard. These are serious allegations. But what you're seeing is a political tactic that we have seen many times. They did it to Judge Bork. They did it to Judge Clarence Thomas. And now it's Judge Kavanaugh. So you also have a right to be skeptical. And we're going to have more on this throughout the show. But thanks to President Trump, we have important developments on the deep state tonight. And we do have a disruptor in chief. We have somebody that's breaking dishes and exposing the deep state. And now that house of cards is crumbling down. Yesterday, the White House announced the president is declassifying key FISA documents that should upend several key corrupt former officials. Now, we've specifically talked about pages 10 through 12, 17 through 34 of the June 2017 FISA application on Carter Page. All FBI reports of Russian-related interviews with Bruce Orr, all FBI reports of interviews prepared in connection with Carter Page and FISA applications. Well, we're now awaiting the release of these important documents, which should rock the deep state to its core. And by the way, that means information, emails, texts, Comey, Page, Strzok, Andrew McCabe, Bruce Orr, Christopher Steele. Let's see it all. Where is Spartacus when we need him? Also tonight, Congressman Adam, Shifty Schiff. He's worried that all his lies about phony Russia collusion will be exposed. He's calling the declassification of abuse of power. That this will put the country at risk. And, quote, this is evidently of no consequence to the president who cares nothing about the country and everything about his narrow self-interest. No, you're going to be exposed as a big, huge liar. We've got all your interviews, all 200,000 of them. And meanwhile, former CIA Director Brennan also freaking out tonight, feeling the heat, actually called on government bureaucrats to defy the president's orders. Obviously, he doesn't want a constitution. But we kind of knew that before, didn't we? Take a look.
I think Christopher Wray, Director of FBI, and Dan Coats, Director of National Intelligence, as well as Rod Rosenstein, who is overseeing this investigation, should push back against any directive that is going to have negative impact on our capabilities, as well as the investigation. So I think they should continue to push. If Mr. Trump and the White House does not relent, well, then I think they have some decisions to make, whether or not they're going to just not follow that direction and be fired, or to resign. But if they really believe that this is going to have serious impact on our national security, law enforcement, and judicial process, they have an obligation, since they took an oath of office to the Constitution of the United States, not to Mr. Trump, to uphold their responsibilities and their agency and department's authorities.
With all due respect, we don't need lectures on the Constitution from him. And by the way, he's feeling safe and sound, bashing the president from his cozy little job on conspiracy TV, hate Trump MSNBC. Other officials, including him, may be very worried tonight, specifically anybody that signed off on those FISA applications against Carter Page, Jim Comey, Sally Yates, Rod Rosenstein, Andrew McCabe, and the rest of them. And by the way, McCabe, despite getting fired, and there is currently a grand jury convened at this moment about him from the FBI, waiting the results of this criminal investigation, he's going to cash in on his anti-Trump hatred. He has a brand new book deal, and he'll need the money, because when the FISA documents are officially released, we should come full circle on his abuse of power as well as others. And of course, without Donald Trump's win in 2016, we would know nothing. Zero about the widespread bureaucratic abuse of power. It's taken us almost 2 years to unpeel every layer of this onion, and the swamp and the sewer. A lot of work yet to be done. Now, James O'Keefe, ProjectVeritas.com, highlighted this in a brand new undercover report. He filmed a State Department employee, an admitted Democratic socialist, vowing to resist President Trump at every level. We're paying the salary of this person. We haven't verified it, but you can watch it for yourself.
I have nothing to lose. It's impossible to fire federal employees. I don't know. I work for the State Department. I'm a civil servant, so I'm a union member and all that good stuff.
Is this everything?
Everything.
Every level.
It's the first in a series, and we're going to be following that very closely. And the State Department confirmed his employment, said that they are taking the matter seriously. We'll have a lot more deep state news throughout the show. Joining us now first with reaction to the latest Kavanaugh developments, American Conservative Union Chairman Matt Schlapp, Judicial Crisis Network Chief Counsel Carrie Severino, and Fox News contributor Tammy Bruce. Thank you all for being here. You were shaking your head a lot during that monologue.
My God, I'll just tell you the embarrassment of this. Look, I was the president of LA Now in the 90s. In 1992, I worked on the Feinstein.
Well, now is National Organization for Women.
That's right. I worked on the Feinstein and Boxer Senate campaigns because, after the Anita Hill situation, I was told we needed fairness. We needed it to be better. We needed it to, be something that the American people could trust. And here we are 26 years later, and Feinstein is now wielding that hatchet. This is not a search for the truth. It is not a desire for justice. This is a political assassination of Judge Kavanaugh. And the issue becomes here and this is what's awful for all of us, frankly, who have worked to have women be taken seriously on issues of violence against women, domestic violence, rape, harassment, is that we've demanded that and said and asserted that women can be taken seriously, and they should be. And yet now, we don't know what happened 36 years ago, but we do know what happened in July. And from that point forward, this has been a politicized framework. This woman's experience has been packaged as a weapon. And this is what we've promised the American people as feminists, that would not happen, that you can trust women, and that we want the system as it exists to simply hear us. We are not asking asking for the accused to have no rights, to be, removed from the process of due process and from the rule of law, and yet now that is what every American is hearing. It is an insult to every woman who's been sexually assaulted. For those of us who've had experiences like that, it is a remarkable dismissal of our life experience and what we've demanded from the system. And I'll just tell you, it's offensive. I want her to get, and it's good that over 36 years she's been in therapy, she made choices that were best for her. I'm not going to judge those choices, but right now she's come forward. She should be heard. It should be under oath. So should the judge, and that is all we're asking right now.
Let me say, when a lawyer says that she's been the target of harassment, death threats as a result of...
Horrible.
By the way, all of us in the public, I know I sympathize with her. I pray for her. I also pray for Judge Kavanaugh and his family. We don't know, and this is the heart of the matter, Carrie, we don't know what happened in 1982, but we ought to hear from everybody. And that, to me, is the presumption of innocence. That is fundamental fairness. Take the charge seriously, and then also look at the entire context and texture that represents the last 36 years of Judge Kavanaugh's life. And then I think the American people will make a decision. Now they've decided to raise the bar. We demand an FBI investigation first. Hasn't he been investigated by the FBI?
He absolutely has. I mean, this is moving the goalposts one time after another. They said, first, after holding it all this time, right, there were opportunities to do this in a private environment, a confidential, that would have spared Ms. Ford some of the harassment that she's experienced now. That would have been much better if Senator Feinstein had talked about this, for example, in the closed hearing for Judge Kavanaugh. That's what that's designed to do. There was I
think this is an important point. The Republicans said, Mitch McConnell and Senator Grassley, it can be closed or it can be open. She doesn't have to go publicly with this, and I would understand the stress of anybody. But
Senator Grassley's bending over backwards.
And she now has raised. Listen, let me play a tape of this. Is her attorney Katz on fake news CNN, but this was real because one of the rare few moments. But she said she would testify. Now they're raising the bar. Now we demand this and this and this before we testify, even though she could do it privately or publicly. Let's roll that tape.
Will your client, Christine Ford, be willing to testify in public to the Judiciary Committee?
The answer is yes.
The answer is yes, but now the answer is no, Carrie. Apparently, you got to do A, B, and C first.
Well, and the Democrats have kind of invented this idea of this new FBI investigation. Here's what the normal process is. You have an FBI investigation. That's been done on Judge Kavanaugh 6 times, but there was done also, of course, once in conjunction with this nomination. Then if there is additional information, which obviously this is, there's an update on that. They had a call yesterday, for example, a confidential, classified call talking about that information. 0. None of them showed. They're not interested in actually following the procedure. They're just inventing a new idea.
And Matt, this is an important point. It's a selective outrage. Where's the outrage about Keith Ellison? Do we believe his former girlfriend? That's happening currently. Sherrod Brown's wife's documents, they're court documents. Pretty harsh. I understand they've gotten back. They're not together. They're separate, but they resolved some differences, but those charges stood. So why aren't they against him?
Look, there are 9 members of the Supreme Court, some picked by Democratic presidents, some picked by Republican presidents. Why is it, after Clarence Thomas and now Brett Kavanaugh and the other ones like Robert Bork, they were able to treat unfairly in the process, why are 2 of the 9 going to have over their heads this idea that they acted inappropriately sexually? You know why? Because Tammy's right. Because that charge works, and it tends to stick. And I want to disagree with something everyone has been saying about this. I believe we will learn nothing on Monday. I know we say that people have the right to be heard. She had the right to participate in a very fair process with a lot of Democratic senators who would have helped her. She chose not to participate in that process because she wants to delay this vote to stop this nomination. This is politics. This is not going to heal anything on Monday, and Republicans better hold the line.
2 women who know the judge coming up next. Thank you for being with us. All right, for the latest on the Kavanaugh nomination and what's going on, we bring in Fox News chief national correspondent Ed Henry is with us tonight. Ed, a lot of breaking news. The letter from the attorney. What's going on at the White House?
Well, Sean, what's interesting is the day started, in fact, with one lawyer for Dr. Ford saying that she was willing to testify. Republicans have given her the option to do it in public or private on Monday. A much different story breaking just in the last hour. Another lawyer for Dr. Ford saying in a letter to the Senate Judiciary Committee she does not want to testify on Monday. She first wants, Dr. Ford does, an FBI investigation of this allegation from 36 years ago. What's interesting is that aligns Dr. Ford with the Senate Democratic leader Chuck Schumer, who for at least 2 days now has been calling for an FBI investigation, even though there's already been 6 FBI background checks of Judge Kavanaugh for various nominations. President Trump today said the FBI does not want to get involved. And so the bottom line is Judge Kavanaugh was here today for the second straight day. He was behind closed doors getting ready for his own testimony. He wants to give sworn testimony. They say here at the White House he'll do it any day this week, but he's ready for next Monday. He wants to deny that there was any kind of sexual assault. Also interesting that the president stood behind his nomination today at a news conference and said that he feels bad about how Judge Kavanaugh, his wife, his children have been treated. Kavanaugh's friend, meanwhile, Mark Judge, said again today he has no memory of the alleged incident, but has RSVP'd no as well to the Senate committee because he does not want to speak publicly other than saying, quote, I never saw Brett act in the manner that Dr. Ford described. So that from the only eyewitness we're aware of from this alleged incident. Now, Chuck Schumer, I mentioned him, he wants the FBI to launch this investigation. Republicans dismiss that, saying he just wants to delay all of this until after the midterms. Here's the senator as well as the president. Watch.
The FBI should be given time to reopen its background check investigation into Judge Kavanaugh.
When Senator Feinstein sat with Judge Kavanaugh for a long period of time, a long, long meeting, she had this letter. Why didn't she bring it up?
Now, Senator Feinstein defended herself this afternoon, saying that she kept that letter private because Dr. Ford wanted to remain anonymous for some time. But the other thing that Feinstein said that's getting a lot of attention tonight is she said, among other things, she cannot say for sure that everything is truthful in terms of what has been said by Dr. Ford. Now, they're trying to clarify that in Feinstein's office tonight, saying that basically she was saying that she wasn't raising doubts about Dr. Ford, but was instead saying it needs to be investigated by the FBI. But that comment from Feinstein saying she's not sure everything's truthful is going to get a lot of attention over the next few days. Sean?
All right, Ed Henry at the White House tonight. Thank you. Joining us now, more supporters of Judge Kavanaugh who have worked with him in the past, known him for decades. Monica Mastello is with us. Leslie Ferenckoff-Foley is with us. Welcome. Good to see you. You knew him at Yale.
I did. We've known each other for over 30 years. We've been very close friends since meeting back at Yale.
This is what I've been saying. Okay, serious charge. She can testify. Now they've changed the rules. They're raising the bar. It seems like they don't really want her for some reason. I don't know why, to testify. He said immediately it's untrue. The one witness that she mentioned was in the room, said it's untrue. How should we approach something like this?
Well, the process is up to the Judiciary Committee, but all I can say is that I've known Brett for so many years. He is the most honest, kind, respectful, decent human being that I know. And I was absolutely shocked by these allegations. And
one allegation.
Yes. And the
1982. Should we put anything into the fact that there are no details, doesn't remember the year, the place, the location? You're a lawyer, that's why I'm asking.
I don't know her, but I can't comment on what she said other than to say that what she's alleged is completely inconsistent with the Brett Kavanaugh that I know.
And that's the thing, Monica, that I have been saying. If we're going to believe in equal justice under the law, I think a core principle of this country is the presumption of innocence. I believe strongly in that. You see so many Democrats that just raced out there to say, I believe Professor Ford. And my question to you, Monica, is we also have to, you're one of the 65 women that knew him and wrote a letter about who he was at this time in his life. I believe your sister dated him, if I'm not mistaken. We have people that also went to college, obviously, like Leslie, who's here with us tonight. We have people that went to law school with him. We have people that clerk with him. We have people that work with him in the Bush White House. I think everybody should be heard. And then we will get a clear picture of his life, won't we?
Yes, I believe that all the women who signed this letter have come out and said that they still have
the utmost confidence in Brett, and that he was in high school as he is now, as women throughout his life have testified to his character and his behavior. And he should be given that opportunity to be heard. You know, he's denied this allegation, and he should be given the opportunity to be heard as well.
What was he like back then?
So I did not go to high school with him. He was in high school with my siblings.
Right. Did he date your sister?
I think they went to a dance or two together, yes.
Okay, I don't know if we call that that dates me.
I don't know if it was
dating.
I don't know if it was dating, but you know, they were very good friends, probably saw each other most weekends. So very good friends, and to this day, very good friends.
Yeah. What was the thing that, if you look at his life and every group all throughout the 36 years, this is the one inconsistent side. And then the timing of it. This was known to the Democrats in July. The Democrats are silent on people like Keith Ellison and others, but that's recent. Do you see politics here?
I fear that politics is definitely
scary when you consider the severity of something like this, right?
It's unfair.
I trust the American people, though. And if Professor Ford and Judge Kavanaugh testify, and all the people that know him all that time testify, I think the American people can sort it out. I have faith in them. Very nice to meet you. Thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Monica, thank you so much, too. We appreciate it. When we come back, Kristen Fisher, live from Washington, where things stand as it relates to the FISA documents the president declassified yesterday. Sarah Carter, Greg Jarrett, much more. A lot of breaking news tonight. Thanks for being with us. All right, yesterday we learned President Trump ordered the declassification of FISA documents and so much more. This could be the end for a lot of people, and put the whole story together. Here with a live report from Washington tonight is our own Kristen Fisher. Kristen, the latest.
Well, Sean, as you said, it's only been one day since President Trump ordered the declassification of several key documents related to the special counsel's probe. But already he says that he'd consider declassifying even more.
What I want is total transparency. This is a witch hunt. Republicans are seeing it. The Democrats know it's a witch hunt, too, but they don't want to admit it because that's not good politics for them.
So intelligence officials are now scrambling to comply with yesterday's order that includes FISA warrants and unredacted text messages from former FBI Director James Comey, former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe, and Peter Strzok and Lisa Page. But critics say their release could jeopardize national security. Today, top Democrats on Capitol Hill sent a letter to the Director of National Intelligence, the FBI Director, and the Deputy Attorney General saying, quote, "The action President Trump has taken to direct your agencies to selectively disclose classified information that he believes he can manipulate publicly to undermine the legitimacy and credibility of the special counsel's investigation is a brazen abuse of power." They also said in that letter that they want a briefing before those documents are disclosed to the White House or anyone else. Sean?
All right, Kristen Fisher in Washington, thank you for that report. Here with more reaction, author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russia Hoax, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett, and also Fox News investigative reporter Sarah Carter. This has now led to where we are today. It has been a long process. Sarah, we always start with you in the news. I keep hearing that the Department of Justice, the FBI, are in a little bit of a freak-out mode. We saw that from Brennan. And Adam Schiff is losing his mind because he will be exposed as a huge liar. So are they slow-walking this? Are they trying to defy the president? Will they listen to Brennan, who's telling people don't listen to the president, who has the constitutional authority to do this?
This is extraordinarily dangerous rhetoric, Sean. I mean, coming out of John Brennan's mouth, Andrew McCabe with his new book, by the way, which is titled "The FBI Basically Protecting Us from Terrorists and Trump." I mean, this type of rhetoric is so dangerous. I mean, this doesn't appear to be a witch hunt. It appears to be a silent coup. I don't know how to say it in any other word. They will try to slow this. They will try to drag it. But the president has issued an immediate order to have those documents declassified.
But
They've
Sarah,
already had them.
I don't like to interrupt you normally, but this is important. We now know that the highest levels of the DOJ, the FBI, and the intel community, not rank and file, which is so important for people to understand, we know they abuse their power. We know that they've done it. We have the evidence. What will this show when we finally get a hold of this information? The FISA warrants, the 302s, the Gang of Eight, all of the texts and emails of Comey, Page, Strzok, McCabe, Orr, and Steele. What are we going to learn?
I think we're going to learn that there was an extraordinary abuse of our constitutional rights, a malfeasance against the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Court, the secret court, in an effort to spy on Carter Page just to get close to Trump. I think what we're going to discover is that they withheld
and prevent him from getting elected.
Destroy him and prevent him from being president. Absolutely, before and after the election. And I have been told that there is information in those documents that none of us are aware of, and that will blow our minds once it comes out, because it's that extraordinary.
I have heard that. I have not seen them. Greg Jarrett, you have a very interesting, strong column out tonight. If Rod Rosenstein defies President Trump's order, which Brennan is encouraging people to do, to declassify these documents, he should be fired. But it's more than that, isn't it?
He should be fired for rank insubordination. You cannot defy the superior officer as an inferior officer of the Department of Justice. And it wasn't just Brennan who said it today, but according to Adam Schiff, Christopher Wray, the FBI director, as well as Rod Rosenstein, the deputy attorney general, said Trump's order crosses a red line. What does that mean? Does that mean they'll defy him?
Why is that not true?
Or does it mean that they will slow walk the release of these documents, hoping that they can delay it until the midterms and Congress will change hands? Rosenstein has every motive in the world to try to hide and conceal these documents because they may incriminate him.
But won't he blame others and say, I didn't know?
Not good enough. He's on record as saying that when you affix your signature to this, you're vouching for the authenticity, the veracity of these documents. And we now know, by virtue of the release of some of the documents, that this was unverified, uncorroborated, and the federal regulations say you may never go to a FISA judge with information that's unverified.
All of this, it's so fascinating and twisted at the same time, Sarah, because this is Hillary's bought and paid for Russian lies that the government used, top, again, intel officers, FBI, DOJ, that they used to secure a FISA warrant, never verifying, corroborating any of it, which they should, to spy on the Trump campaign. And then they're using it as a weapon to leak to get Mueller appointed, because Lisa Page testified that they didn't have any Russia collusion after 9 long months of investigation. Nothing.
But they were still searching for a crime, Sean, and that's why they were leaking to the media. So they had this pretext, right? They were leaking information that they got from an uncorroborated dossier by a foreign agent from a foreign country based on Russian lies, and then they would leak it to the media, and then all of a sudden when these stories would come out, like they verified the FISA on Carter Page, which by the way is a crime because that's considered classified, then they would say, oh, the story's out now, so now we can go even further and interview more people in the Trump campaign. Although it was all based on lies from the beginning. It's almost like we're living in an upside down world. I mean, how is it possible that another campaign, Hillary Clinton, and the Democratic National Committee could pay for this?
Greg.
And then we're investigating a president.
One other point. President Obama signed an executive order that said to the FBI, DOJ, and other agents, you may never misuse classification status to hide your own malfeasance, embarrassment, and lawlessness. And we will find out, I guarantee you, that that's exactly what the FBI and the DOJ was doing, and they're still trying to conceal it.
The illicit scheme to clear Hillary Clinton and frame Donald Trump, the Russian hoax, it's all true.
It is indeed. And the more evidence that comes out, the more it substantiates the thesis.
Is it a thesis or is it now fact?
It's fact. It's well-known fact.
Greg Jarrett, thank you. Sarah Carter, thank you. Without you two, we wouldn't be where we are tonight. Also, John Solomon, a big part of this. He sat down with the president, brand new details in an exclusive interview about this topic and much more. We'll break it here next. All right, the Hill's John Solomon. He just sat down literally 2 hours ago with President Trump for an exclusive interview, and they spoke about him declassifying the FISA documents, Mueller's probe, Kavanaugh's confirmation process, and so much more. I don't even know where to begin. I'll let you report, and we'll all decide. But this is an exclusive interview that he gave you, 45 minutes for the Hill?
It was extraordinary in the Oval Office. And first, Sean, just one thing, an impression before we get to the news. You hear all the stories of the White House being in disarray, chaos, yelling, screaming. I was in the Oval Office for 45 minutes. The president couldn't be calmer. The organization couldn't be more functional. And he was very measured in how he answered questions, very detailed. He had a good grasp of the details of the Russia investigation and anything we asked him. It was really impressive, so different from the reports that you see in the other news media organizations today. But let me tell you the news. He said today that the effort to expose a corrupt FBI investigation may turn out to be one of the crowning achievements of his presidency. That what went on was a ruse. He changed his word. He's been calling it a witch hunt. Remember Mueller's witch hunt? Today, he used Greg Jarrett's word. It's a hoax. It was a fraud. We deceived the FISA court. He made some really strong statements about the judges. I don't know yet, he said, but I fear they didn't do their job. Maybe they're doing it now. We got to give them the benefit of the doubt. But they didn't ask enough. Yeah, first time he's ever talked about that, right? But here's one of the biggest ones. We've sat here for 2 years laboring over the idea, was there obstruction when he fired Comey, right? And of course, a lot of people said it was in his constitutional power. Here's the news he made today. He said he wanted to fire Comey back in 2016. He should have done it. He got talked out of it. It was the biggest mistake. He didn't fire him in May. That wasn't the first time he was thinking about it. He thought about it in the summer of 2016. He wanted to get rid of that guy because he didn't like the way he handled the Clinton email case. All of this has been under wraps. We have known this. It puts an entirely different perspective on the things the president did in his first months in office. Really extraordinary.
You know, we have been on peeling an onion, and you've been a big part of it. Greg has been a big part of it. Sarah's been a big part of it, and there's been many others. I can't mention them all. I think he's right. Did he also talk about declassifying and unredacting other stuff?
He did.
He did.
Yeah. Here's the most important thing. He hasn't even read these documents. He's taking a leap of faith that the American public will appreciate the transparency. I haven't read them, but I'm certain from the members of Congress I've talked to who've done their work and done their due diligence, it's going to show that we were disserved in the American public, that this was a hoax and not a real investigation meant to distract my presidency. But he's a man very comfortable with this decision to declassify. All that Brennan stuff rolls off his sleeve like nothing. He believes this is the right thing to do, and he believes when we see these documents, we're going to find out the FBI did not act in the best interest of the United States. That was his words and what he came away with today when we talked to him.
There seems to be a lot of fear. We mentioned this with Sarah in terms of Brennan and McCabe with his new book. Really? Terrorism, Trump? Really?
Yeah.
It's sad.
Yeah.
This is one of the greatest institutions. I've said this many times. A lot of my family was in law enforcement. My mom was a prison guard for 25 years. My dad, family court probation. So many. It's an Irish family, cops, NYPD. Two FBI guys were deity, and this is not rank and file. But what they did is abuse their power. Is he confident that we do get to the truth?
He does. He had a level of confidence and a level of